you see the last few attendees shuffle through the large double doors into the main hall of the temple, and from behind you, you hear a door open and shut, and when you turn, you see Killian. And she's wearing this beautiful floral tunic and a silk sash, and her hair is up in a tall bun with an emerald hairpin, and she's wearing the rosewood ring that Magnus gave to Carey over a year ago, and she smiles and she says, "You look really fancy. Thank you for doing this. It really means a lot to us."
Well, listen, it was an honor for you to ask. And like, you have my check, right? That'll be after, but I'll go ahead and do it now. But you do have the check, right?
I think she just ignores that, and she comes and she stands next to you in front of the vanity, and you're both looking at yourselves in the mirror, and she says, "It's been a pretty strange road that got us here, huh?"
Extremely strange.
She smiles and she kneels down and she puts a hand on your shoulder and says, "I want you to know I wouldn't change a thing." And she stands up and walks out into the empty hall. And Merle, you make your way out too, and you go through these large double doors and walk down the aisle of this congregation hall to the lectern at the front of the crowd. And as you do, you pass by familiar smiling faces in the audience. You see Angus, who puts down a large book as you walk by, and he looks like he's about to tear up already. And he's sitting with Mavis and Mookie, and Mookie tries to stand up on the bench that they're all sitting on and like bounce up and down, but Mavis like grabs his hand and pulls him back down to the bench, and she gives you a thumbs up. And you see Lucretia sitting in the front row with the rest of the bureau employees in attendance. And she just smiles softly and makes eye contact with you, Merle. And she lifts her hand up to her heart for a few seconds, and she puts it down. And you see Loop, and she's got her arm around Barry, and she makes this big gesture and flashes an okay symbol at you, and she winks, and Barry kind of chuckles. Sitting next to them are Taco and Kravitz, and Taco, just as things are about to start, Kravitz reaches down and takes your hand in his, and it's warm. And the two of you lock eyes for a while as Kravitz smiles, and he turns his eyes back toward the lectern. And Merle, you also walk by Magnus. Magnus, you feel something small hit you on the back of the head, and you see a small pebble fall to the ground at your feet. And when you look behind you to discern the source of this rock, you see a side door into this grand hall cracked open, and you see Carey inside. And she's looking at you with a stern face, and she motions you towards her, and she slips away behind the door.
"If you will all excuse me, I have to shit."
You see Lucretia like turn to look behind and like look at you. She just kind of shakes her head and smiles and turns back forward as you creep your way toward that door, and you walk through it into another vestibule, and you close it behind you. And when you look up, you see Carey, and she's wearing this silver dress with an ornately patterned dark blue vest over it, and she's wearing a circlet of the same flowers that match the pattern on Killian's tunic, and she's wearing one half of the BFF necklace that you gave her, and she smiles as you enter, and she says, "How do I look?"
"You look amazing."
And we're back in the present, and you see Carey, and she's just pacing nervously in this vestibule, and she starts to speak kind of frantically. She's like, "I know this is stupid. I know I'm being silly. It's just like, I'm really excited to spend my life with Killian. It's not that. It's just like, when I walk through that door, my life's going to change, Magnus, and it's going to be so good, but it's still really scary."
"Yeah, the fact of the matter is, your life is a constant stream of changes. I mean, you start one day accepting a job offer and you end saving the world. And you're going to walk through that door and your life will never be the same. And I wish I could tell you that every day from now on will be amazing and the happiest day of your life. But that's not the way that life works. But every day will be made better because she's in it with you. You aren't going to be alone ever again. Even if you're ever separated, you'll still never be alone.
She stops pacing and she catches her breath and she looks over at you and she's got some tears forming in her eyes and she grabs a cloth and blots them. She's like, I'm going to streak my fucking eyeliner. She says,
give me a hug, lizard girl.
Don't fucking call me that. And she gives you a hug. She says, I'm a proud dragonborn.
I know.
And she pulls away from you and blots her eyes one more time. And she says, okay.
And Magnus says, in thieves can't. Are you ready?
And she gestures back. I'm ready. And that door opens, and Magnus slinks back to his seat as that troupe of musicians take their place beside the lectern and start playing. And we see at opposite ends of the room, 2 doors open up, and Carey and Killian step out of them. And everyone rises to their feet, and we see Carey and Killian lock eyes and smile, and both start tearing up, and they begin walking slowly toward the front of the hall, and then we see the smiling faces of their friends and family in the audience. And then Carey chuckles and starts walking faster, and Killian sees her and starts moving faster, and soon they're both just running at full speed, turning the corner as they reach the ends of the aisles, and they crash together in front of the lectern. And Killian lifts Carey off the ground in an embrace, and she lowers her down, and they kiss. And they turn toward the audience and smile sheepishly, and everyone kind of laughs through their own joyous tears. And then Carey and Killian turn toward you, Merle, and they nod. And we see them all now in this temple overlooking the sea, celebrating this moment of peace and love and joy as the camera pans up to show the scope of the audience in attendance at this wedding. And we see the faces of the people who fought for this day, and we feel their longing remembrance of the ones who died for it. And they're in attendance too, in a way. The day of Carey and Killian's wedding was full of laughing and dancing and feasting and loving. It was one of the happiest days of all of your lives. And even happier days were to come, because that was the world that you made. That was the ending you earned.